like to start off with welcoming everybody to the presentation of Markus Mutter, Alejandra de la Torre, and myself. Over the course of this master, I've gotten to know the most of you pretty well, and I've always thought of you extremely highly, as very sharp, intelligent, and world-wise individuals. That being said, I still believe that, but I also have reason to believe that the majority of you are incorrectly tying your shoelaces, meaning with a granny knot. This knot is the cause of shoelaces coming undone, with consequences like tripping over your shoelaces, and when you're trying to accomplish a big athletic accomplishment, possibly having to retie your shoelaces. But please don't be insulted, because this does not only happen to the most of us, it also happens to the best of us. What you can see here is a picture of Usain Bolt running his world record on the 100 meters with his shoelaces undone. As this clearly shows, anti-shoelaces does not have to stop you from achieving big athletic accomplishments, but obviously it could. But we are here not to teach you how to tie your shoelaces. Not because we don't want to, but more importantly because we don't need to, as fairly soon a product will be introduced into the market that will replace the knot or tie in shoelaces altogether. This product being the Click-Tight, which I will demonstrate to you now on the screen here on the side. So this is the Click-Tight. Like you might be able to see, you pull your laces through, pull them to the sides, and what you do is click it tight, which will secure you for having tight shoelaces for the rest of the day. This product is currently in the modeling stage, which I have just shown you, but we are not ready yet. Behind me, you can see an illustration of a marketing campaign we're developing called Darwin's Missing Link. Its message being that we've only developed and evolved into up-straight standing people the moment we could stop having to spend all this time bending over, tying and retying your shoelaces. The Homo sapiens, which is Latin for wise man, however, is also the cause of pollution and social inequality, something the Click-Tight does not want to be part of.
So, hello. I'm gonna, as Jurriën just said, the wise man nowadays is the cause for a lot of problems. And this is another thing which we want to show today. We don't want to teach you tying your shoelaces. Now we're going to focus on the problems that the wise man is causing nowadays. So in the context. As we've seen throughout the whole course, and as we've seen in a lot of presentations today having a triple bottom line is extremely important for businesses, focusing on the social, economic, and on the environmental benefits it provides to society at the same time. The Click-Tight, we said we want to do it right or get it right from the very beginning, not starting to reevaluate our strategies afterwards, like a lot of companies nowadays. Here you see a picture, for example, of labor rights in China. But the following is the most important in our work, in our theory, in our final project. And I'm going to show you the following. Imagine this bottle on the screen here being a football pitch. Okay, I know that this analogy doesn't kind of fit, but just imagine. In the following slide, you can see that within 1 year, we produce just in Europe as much plastic, 55 million tons, to fill a football pitch and up until the height of 10 kilometers, which is the usual cruising altitude for a plane. Stunning, huh? So, each and every one of you and us consumes on average 95 kilograms of plastic per year. Get Jurriën 1 month to McDonald's and you will be able to see and feel what 95 kilograms look like. But why do I tell you that? The Click-Tight is obviously made out of plastic. And as we already said, we want to be part of the solution and not the problem. We call the plastic paradox, which is coming here, actually the United Nations Environmental Programme admits that plastic might be a bigger problem than climate change. And why is that? Plastic in the environment breaks down into nanoparticles, which are consumed by microbacteria, which are dying. And effectively, they are the base for all life on Earth. 9 out of 10 children nowadays are being born with already plastic particles in their blood. Now you see, which is the plastic paradox. Oh wait, one slide further. The plastic paradox also says we're insulating our buildings with plastics, but are concerned about indoor air quality. We're packaging our food with plastics, but at the same time, these plastics contain toxic adhesives which are getting into our bodies and cause lung diseases, chronic skin diseases, cancer, skin irritation, and all kinds of other stuff. This we are calling the plastic paradox, and in the following, Alejandra will show you a framework that we came across that tries to not only make things less bad, but really try to re-evolve or rethink our linear way of taking, making, and wasting.
Thank you. Ahí? Okay. So, as Markus already said, we had to come across to a certain model that would allow us not just to undermine all the negative consequences of our activities in the environment, but to actually start doing things good. And so we came across to a model called Cradle to Cradle, which is a methodology or a philosophy or a paradigm or any of that big words. And it was designed by a German chemist and an American architect. And it's a set of principles or guidelines that are supposed to help entrepreneurs and designers to rethink the way we make things in a better way. We will go through some of the important parts of this. The first one is that everything that we design for our convention, for our way of living, has to be included from the designing stage into one of these two cycles. The first cycle is called biological cycle, which means that the products that we design have to be able to return to the environment, degrade, and become part of the biological cycle again. The second part, the second way of the second cycle, I'm sorry, it's called the technical cycle, and it's supposed to. What we have to do is that we have to create products in a way that after they cover the life that they were intended to, we can use them as raw materials to create new products. So we don't need to have new and new raw materials all the time, and we don't have to deplete the planet. After that, the cradle-to-cradle methodology has 5 main areas of action. The first one is the material health, which means that the producer of any product has to be very aware and identify all the parts and components of the products that they provide, and they have to know the impacts of that components in the environment and in the human health. The second part is the material reutilization, which means that the producer has to identify in which of the previous cycles its product will be, and how the system of returning these products to these cycles will be. Then we have renewable energies, which means that the producers have to identify the sources of energies that their suppliers are using and try to make them as more renewable as possible. Then we have the water stewardship, which means that the producers have to be aware of the cycle, the water flows and the cycles of water in order to reuse the resource instead of spending it. And then the social responsibility principles, which is not the main focus of the methodology itself, but it does states that all producers have to take into account concepts as fair trade and business ethics in general. Okay. So now we will go through our goals and objectives as a project. Our main goal was to understand the impacts in the economic, social, and environmental dimensions of the click-type business in a triple bottom line when applying cradle-to-cradle principles. In order to achieve that goal, we came up with 2 different business plans, which will guide us through the complete process of the project. The first one is called Business as Usual, BAU as the initials, and it's based in in efficient cost management and the compliance of international laws. This means that all the decisions that we had to take in the business plans, in the business as usual, were based on these 2 criteria. In the second case, we have the five main areas that were mentioned before in the cradle-to-cradle case. After that, we made a comparison in the environmental, the social, and the economical dimensions of both businesses to know, as the main goal is, which are the impacts of applying a cradle-to-cradle strategy to a business. Now we will be presenting the findings, and Markus starts.
Okay, I'm starting again with the environmental finding. Because, as we said, in the life cycle, we took 2 life cycle stages. We took materials and manufacturing. So materials meaning the manufacturing of the polymer, of the plastic that is used for the click type, and the second life cycle stage, the end manufacturing of the final click type. So, in the business as usual scenario, for 1 click type weighs 1.5 grams. And for 1,000 click types, 500 pairs. We need as much energy as having a light bulb burn 10 hours a day for 1 month. During that process, in the second life cycle, we generate 3 kilograms of CO2 equivalent, which equals a 20 kilometers drive with your car, or a 40 meters drive with your car, and we would say you can walk those 40 meters. In the cradle-to-cradle case, we chose a material that was, we're dealing with chemical stuff that we are no chemists, and therefore we really relied on external input. And a material called Vestamid of Evonik, which is a large chemical company, was told that this would fit our criteria. And for 1.5 kilograms of Vestamid, we need as much energy as in 1 year a refrigerator. So in terms of energy compliance, after we got that material, we really know that it was not that environmentally friendly, or more environmentally friendly than the first. During that process, we emit twice as much CO2 as in the business as usual scenario, which would equal a 40 kilometers drive through Madrid, or an 80 meters drive, again, you can walk. Now, our second life cycle stage was the manufacturing of the final click type. In the business as usual scenario, we took China as a manufacturing place because lowest cost in manufacturing, how everybody's doing it today, just going to China. For 1.5 kilograms of PP material or 500 pairs of click types, we would need as much energy as a 100-kilometer train ride with the ICE, the high-speed train in Germany, for example. During that process, we emit 8 kilograms of CO2, which is as much as 53 kilometers driving. Or 106 meters driving, again, run. That's why we're wearing running shoes. In the cradle-to-cradle case, for the 1.5 kilograms of Vestamid, because it's also manufactured in China and has a far higher, this is with all biomaterials, which are nowadays claimed to be the solution to our plastics problems. They all have a more complex manufacturing process. This is why they need a far more electricity and energy. But in those 2 cases, we took injection molding as a technique of manufacturing that click type, and in both cases, in Germany and in China, it's the same machines and the same energy needs. In the cradle-to-cradle case, the emissions just differ because we manufacture in Germany, and in Germany, as we've seen before, has a higher share of renewable energies and therefore a lower emission factor, which is why we only emit 3.44 kilograms of CO2 or a 22 kilometers drive, which would equal a 44 meters run. Now we're coming to the social findings, which will Jurriën.
Thank you very much, Markus. This page will remain blank for the first part of the presentation of the social findings. Why? because we sent out a survey to our manufacturers in China. And this survey contained questions with regards to environmental questions and social questions. The survey that came back to us, though, was filled out with some disturbing answers with regards to environmental, but was completely left blank with regards to social. Therefore, it was hard for us to draw a conclusion between the manufacturing in China and the manufacturing in Germany. All what we have to go by with regards to manufacturing in China are the reports we read by Human Rights Watch and the information that we get through the media. As was shown, there are currently riots in Shenzhen and different scandals have emerged. In contrast, though, we sent out the same survey to the manufacturer in Germany, and that came back fully filled, which painted a prettier picture. And even this is not a picture that represents the work conditions in Germany. They definitely do look like a happy bunch of people.
You like that, Jan, right?
Okay, so we'll go then to the financial findings. I want to remind you that what we did was a comparison between the cradle-to-cradle case and the business-as-usual case. In such a sense, this is not a complete financial analysis of a business, but just a tool to understand what are the effects of these changes. So the first thing that we will say is that the final price of the click tide for the business as usual was defined as 3.99 euros. The reason of this decision comes from two sources. First, a small survey that we performed and that led us to this result. And second, we did an analysis of the competitions or substitute products for the click tide, and they are around this price. So it's a market-driven price. To have that final price, that means that we have to sell to the retailers, to the stores that will sell in the end the products at 1.99 euros because they have 100% of a margin. In the case of the cradle to cradle, the price was defined 10% of this. The reason again is the small survey that we performed that led us to know that people are willing to pay 10% more if they knew that the product that they're buying is sustainable, which means that we'll have to sell to the retails at 2.2. Now, the fixed cost is 302,007 that. And I'm sorry for my numbers in English. It's around 300,000. And this comes mainly, it was based on a 3.5 years projection, and it includes startups costs, the salaries of these 3 years and the employees, and the patents and the marketing campaigns. And they are equal for the cradle-to-cradle case as for the business-as-usual case. The variable cost, on the other hand, we have the production in China for the business-as-usual is 0.02 cents of euros each pair of click tides. And in the case of cradle-to-cradle, it doubles up to 0.04 euros. Using this information, we performed a break-even analysis, which is the main tool that we use in order to differentiate or understand the consequences of applying a cradle-to-cradle case. And the break-even point for the business-as-usual case is 155,000, that around 155,000 pairs, and which means that we have to sell that amount in order to break even. And in the case of the cradle-to-cradle, we have to sell 143,000. That means that in the cradle-to-cradle case, we break even with 8% less units, less pairs of click ties than in the business-as-usual case. So we can conclude that for the difference in the prices, we get actually a better financial performance when looking at these indicators in the cradle-to-cradle case. Now we'll go to the conclusions and start.
Okay. Again, me as the environmentalist of the group, I'm starting with the environmental conclusion again. So we chose Westermead and found in the end that it is not so environmentally friendly, but purely because of the fact that it is really manufactured with non-renewable sources, and if the systems were in place to manufacture it with renewable sources, it would be better because it contains less toxins as normal material, and I told you about the toxins which are contained in normal plastics. Second, we have to admit that we might not have focused on the most important stages of the product, because now we've researched how to bring a product in a more environmentally friendly to market, but we didn't focus on the end-of-life solutions, which is a big part of the cradle-to-cradle methodology, because it says that you have to return your products into a closed cycle. And as a third conclusion, I want to say that we as a business cannot make the whole difference. It also always depends, as we've heard in a lot of presentations today, on the consumer's role and the consumer being aware of what his product is made out, what this product does, and what happens with the product after its useful life.
Over to the social. Like I mentioned before in the findings, the Chinese apparently did not talk, see, or hear any evil with regards to the labor conditions. This could be partially true because they didn't want to share it with us. But from this, we have got confirmed that with regards to labor conditions and social issues, the Chinese are kind of touchy with regards to sharing this information with us. As was recommended to us by one of the founders of Cradle to Cradle, that if you are in doubt with regards to your environmental and social consequences when producing in China, simply move to somewhere else, like for example the EU, and do it in Germany. Of course this will have cost consequences, but for us it won't. And so we further investigated Germany. This is the October Beer Fest, and we did not hear any evil, nor did we see any evil from Germany, and therefore we conclude that doing business in Germany is not a very bad choice after all. Over to the financial.
Okay. As a financial conclusion, then we have that as the estimate option, which was the cradle-to-cradle option, nowadays is not actually more environmental friendly than the PP ones produced with PP material because it's cheaper and it has a less environmental impact. Then, as seen before in the social part, produced in Germany, because you will have the same cost in the case of the click-tight because it is not a labor-intense industry. So the main difference between the Chinese production and the European Union production in terms of cost is the salaries that you pay to your workers. And as the click-tight is like very automatized way of producing, and it doesn't require 100 people to produce it at this stage of the business at least, the cost won't affect that much the final outcome of the product. And in this sense, the break-even point will be around 155,000 again.
Thank you. Back to our football pitch filled with plastics to a height of 10,000 meters. Even if our wildest dreams for the click-tights become true, then the total amount of sales for the click-tight will only have a very small impact on the total amount of plastics produced. Our first mistake would be not in acknowledging our contribution to this problem and not taking responsibility for the total amount of plastics. We can conclude that even though we see that the solutions provided by Cradle to Cradle currently do not have the right elements in place for it to be fully effective, it does not mean that this isn't a path we should continue on investigating and following. In order to do so, by future environmental challenges will above all require systematic answers and the contribution of us all. As you can see now, this very small drop, which only forms a minute part of the total, has been developed. And even though you think your contribution in total might be very small, as is obviously and clearly shown here, it still is part of the total. We would therefore ask you, with regards to all your plastic purchases, be it sunglasses, be it click-tights, be it water bottles, that you think of how all your plastic consumptions during a year finally contribute and be part of the total. Thank you very much.
to the Click team. I did find it fascinating to think and to try to go beyond, the obvious. And I think that this is a very good example of, how, from a business perspective, it could be relatively straightforward to say, well, I'm going to go launch this product, buy it from God knows where, and just go ahead with it. And once you start scratching behind that surface, the kind of a huge complexity there is in terms of, the composition, the material, the fact that, they're kind of selling you it is environmentally friendly, but if you go one step beyond that, you realize that if you factor in other elements, maybe it's not as eco-friendly as it was supposed to be. The labor condition aspect, and so I think you did a very good job in terms of pulling that thread and highlighting all the different factors. So I think that was very enlightening, and also you demonstrate that you have a good grasp about those concepts, and I think it's very good that way. And I guess maybe the question for me would be, how does the Click thing make the world a better place? How could you? We're talking about overeating and exercising and all that. So you're proposing something that makes things even simpler. And the small energy you spend every morning when you do your shoelaces, if you're giving an option not to even do that. So, and one idea, and I'm kind of jokingly saying this, but one idea maybe would be to associate the Click thing, and I was thinking about these wristbands that that have some kind of idea associated to them, like end poverty or whatever. So maybe associate that kind of product to that would give it maybe a more kind of social contribution element to it.
Well, in response, we can say that is something that was part of our marketing plan with regards to the cradle-to-cradle scenario that we drew. There would be 5 colors of Click tights, all attached to a social cause, and part of the profits would go to that social cause. But back to your comment, and I think that is an important message I try to convey here. If you just look at the simple fact that the Click tight is made out of plastic and it contributes to the total, right now there is no benefit with regards to that Click tight. But still, it is a small part, and there are people who, well, really would like to find an easier way and be secured of the fact that they can run a marathon, for example, or do their athletic accomplishments without their shoelaces being coming undone. But again, it's very good to be aware of the effects of your purchase of the Click tight, and we hope that you take the Click tight as a benchmark in comparison to all other plastic products that you buy as well.
This. And I would like also to add that we have seen during the course of the master the relationship between entrepreneurs and the private businesses and development. And at the end, this is a private business, just as many other businesses. So if we can contribute to the economies of the countries and at the same time be environmentally friendly and drive a message, because another thing that we can do with the Click tight is that when you connect yourself with your customers, you can explain all that problematic about plastics, so you know how harmful it is or how you should take care of that. So at the end, you're contributing to the general economy, and if you do it right, I don't see why you wouldn't be helping.
I just want to give you an idea. There's a company here called Fun and Basics, and they have a line of business that it's called EcoAlf. So what they do is that they produce textile, and they produce several little bags and type of these gadgets from recycled plastic that comes from pets and from nets, fisherman nets. So a possibility to give like a way of becoming you know, making this business real, becoming a reality and seeing it, will be to talk to businessmen or businesswomen that are already in the plastic recycling business and like this type of products. So if you want, I can introduce you to Javier Goyeneche, who's the owner and CEO of the company, because I think this will be very attractive, especially if you're adding to it what Santiago said, you know, the social side of it, of what's the cost, and if actually you're going to put in some percentage back to the specific cause, it's even better. That's a CSR program.
Well, thank you very much.
Hi guys, thank you for the job and the presentation, very innovative. Just one quick question. Why not doing the click-tie device out of biomass? We're still talking about plastic. Why not doing it from potato skin?
No. Okay. I mean, I don't. In the very first place, we thought about that a lot of, okay, coming up then with other materials than plastic. But as we said, we at the same time want to be part of the solution and the problem and make people aware of something. If we would make it out of biomass, okay, we are trying to convey that or making people aware of impacts of biomass, or I don't know. We were aware of the fact that this product is out of plastic and therefore really got into that problematic of plastic. And plastics is such a subtle problem that few, if any of us, really know details about the industry, about the end-of-life options, what really happens. I mean, every single piece of plastic ever manufactured by humanity still exists today in some or the other way. And I think that we were aware of the fact and really wanted to do consciously this product out of plastics and search for options.
I'd like to add to that the Vestamite in its basis is a bioproduct. Vestamite in its basis it comes from biomass. And the problem with a lot of biomasses is that currently the packaging which you see for your vegetables in the supermarket comes mainly from, for example, cornstarch, which goes through a chemical process of which most of the process is patented. So adhesives are added in order to make it workable. And well, what we've seen with the Vestamite, for example, one of the reasons why it has such a high CO2 emission factor is the fact that the problem with biomass is that you have to grow it, you have to take care of it, you have to harvest it, you have to take it back, you have to dry it, then you have to take it through, well, the chemical process, which is a lot more energy intensive than simply pumping up some oil from the ground and making that into a plastic. And for that reason we said, as long as all these processes can be fueled by renewable energies, your tractor, drying machines and everything be powered by solar or wind, for example, your CO2 footprint is just simply too high if that is something you are looking for.
Excellent. So thank you very much again. Well done, guys.